She thought she could erase her. One word from Celeste Harrington, and Maren Whitley's name had been quietly removed from the guest list of the most exclusive charity event of the year. But sometimes, the people you try to silence are the ones who end up speaking the loudest. Maren stood in her modest kitchen, stirring honey into her morning tea, when she noticed the mail scattered across the counter. Bills. Catalogs. A postcard from her cousin. But nothing cream-colored. Nothing embossed with gold lettering. Every year for the past 5 years, the invitation to the Rosewood Charity Ball arrived in early September. It was always the same, thick cardstock, elegant script, her name handwritten by a professional calligrapher. This year, nothing. She glanced at the calendar. September 18th. The ball was in 2 weeks. Griffin walked in, knotting his tie, his phone pressed between his ear and shoulder. He was always on the phone these days. Always talking to someone more important than her. Aha. Yes, Julian. I'll have the blueprints ready by Friday, he said, barely glancing at Maren as he poured himself coffee. She waited until he hung up. Did you get your invitation to the Rosewood Ball? She asked quietly. Griffin looked up, surprised. Yeah. Came last week. Why? Maren's chest tightened. I didn't get mine. He frowned, but it was the distracted kind of frown, the kind that meant he was already thinking about something else. Maybe it got lost in the mail. You can just come with me as my +1. Griffin, I've been on that committee for 3 years. I've donated. I've volunteered. They don't just forget people. He sighed, setting down his mug. Maren, it's a charity ball, not the Oscars. Don't overthink it. But she wasn't overthinking it. She knew exactly what had happened. Celeste Harrington had made sure she wasn't invited. It had started 6 months ago, at a luncheon for the hospital fundraiser. Maren had been sitting with the other committee wives when Celeste swept in, all silk and diamonds, commanding the room like a queen. Celeste had always been polite to Maren, in that cold, distant way wealthy women are polite to people they don't consider equals. But that day, something shifted. Griffin had been there too, schmoozing with potential clients. He'd been talking to Celeste's husband, Richard, about a commercial project. Maren watched from across the room as Celeste joined the conversation, her hand resting lightly on Griffin's arm, her laugh too loud, too long. Maren hadn't thought much of it then. But over the following weeks, she noticed things. The way Celeste always seemed to be wherever Griffin was. The way she'd call him directly instead of going through Julian. The way Griffin's late nights became more frequent. And then came the committee meeting where Celeste had looked right at Maren and said, I think we need to re-evaluate our membership. Not everyone here truly understands the culture of philanthropy. The other women had nodded. Maren had said nothing. Now, standing in her kitchen, Maren understood. She'd been erased. Griffin grabbed his briefcase. I have to go. Don't stress about the ball. We'll figure it out. The door closed behind him. Maren sat down at the table, her tea growing cold. She pulled out her phone and opened her email. There, buried under spam, was a message from the Rosewood Charity Foundation. Dear Mrs. Whitley, due to limited seating and updated donor priorities, we regret to inform you that we are unable to extend an invitation to this year's gala. We appreciate your past support. Limited seating. Updated donor priorities. Polite words for, you don't matter anymore. Maren closed her eyes. For a moment, she let herself feel the sting. The humiliation. The smallness. Then she opened her desk drawer and pulled out a worn leather folder. Inside were documents she hadn't looked at in years. Bank statements. Legal papers. A handwritten letter from her father, Silas Renworth, dated 3 years before his death. My dearest Maren, it began. When you read this, I'll be gone. I've lived simply, and I've taught you to do the same. But I've also been careful. What I've built for you. Not so you can show off. But so you'll never have to beg. Never have to shrink. Use it wisely. Use it when it matters. Maren had inherited nearly $40 million when her father died. She'd told no one. Not her friends. Not Griffin. She'd wanted to see if he'd love her without it. If people would respect her for who she was, not what she had. Now she had her answer. Maren picked up her phone and dialed a number she hadn't called in months. Pembroke Estate Management, this is Thea speaking. Thea, it's Maren Whitley. There was a pause, then warmth flooded the line. Maren, darling. It's been too long. I need your help with something, Maren said. Something big. Thea laughed softly. I'm listening. Maren took a breath. I want to make a donation. To the Rosewood Charity Ball. $500,000. Silence. Then Thea's voice, steady and delighted. Now that is going to be interesting. Griffin didn't come home until after 9 that night. Maren had dinner waiting, even though she wasn't hungry. She'd learned early in their marriage that small gestures kept the peace. He kissed her forehead, distracted. Smells good. They ate in silence. Maren watched him scroll through his phone between bites. How was your day? She asked. Busy. Julian and I are pitching to the Harringtons next week. If we get this project, it'll change everything for the firm. The Harringtons, Maren repeated. As in Celeste and Richard. Yeah. Richard wants to build a new office complex downtown. Huge deal. Maren set down her fork. Griffin, do you talk to Celeste often? He looked up, surprised. Celeste? I mean, yes, sometimes. She's involved in Richard's business decisions. Why? Just wondering. He studied her for a moment, then shrugged. She's a little intense, but she's connected. Good to have on our side. Maren nodded. She didn't say what she was thinking, that Celeste didn't want Maren on any side. That Celeste wanted her gone. After dinner, Griffin retreated to his office. Maren cleaned up, then sat alone in the living room. She thought about the early days of their marriage. How Griffin used to hold her hand during walks. How he used to ask about her day and actually listen. How he used to look at her like she was enough. Somewhere along the way, she'd become invisible. She pulled out her laptop and opened her private bank account. The one Griffin didn't know existed. $42,600,000. Her father had been a quiet genius. A man who'd invented a small medical device that became standard in hospitals worldwide. He'd never flaunted his wealth. He'd lived in the same modest house for 30 years, drove the same truck, wore the same flannel shirts. Money doesn't make you better, he used to say. It just shows you who people really are. Maren had taken that lesson to heart. When she met Griffin, she was working as a librarian. She wore simple clothes, lived in a small apartment, drove an old car. Griffin had fallen for her, or so she thought. He said he loved her laugh. Her kindness. The way she saw the world. They'd married young. She'd kept her inheritance secret, telling herself it didn't matter. That love was enough. But over the years, as Griffin's career grew, so did his ambition. He started comparing himself to other men. Started wanting more. Bigger house. Better car. The right social circles. And Maren, with her thrift store dresses and homemade meals, didn't fit the image anymore. She closed the laptop. Tomorrow, she'd set things in motion. The next morning, Maren drove to the Rosewood Country Club. She'd called ahead and scheduled a meeting with Vivian, the event coordinator for the charity ball. Vivian greeted her warmly in the lobby. Mrs. Whitley, what a lovely surprise. They sat in a private lounge overlooking the golf course. I understand I wasn't included on this year's guest list, Maren said calmly. Vivian's smile faltered. Oh, yes. I'm so sorry about that. The committee made some difficult decisions this year regarding capacity and donor levels. I see. And what donor level qualifies for an invitation? Vivian hesitated. Well, typically, our patrons contribute at least $10,000 annually. I've contributed $15,000 each of the past 3 years. You have, and we're so grateful. But this year, Mrs. Harrington felt that, well, she suggested we focus on certain individuals who align more closely with the Foundation's vision. There it was. Celeste had personally removed her. Marin leaned forward. What if I wanted to make a significant donation this year? Vivian blinked. How significant? $500,000. The woman's mouth opened. Closed. Opened again. I'm sorry, did you say? $500,000, Marin repeated. To the Rosewood Children's Hospital Foundation. In honor of my late father, Silas Renworth. Vivian stared at her like she'd just spoken in another language. Mrs. Whitley, that's extraordinary. That would make you our largest single donor this year. Good. I'd like the donation announced at the ball. Publicly. Vivian nodded slowly, still processing. Of course. Absolutely. I'll need to coordinate with Mrs. Harrington, as she's the chair, but I'm sure. I don't need her permission, Marin said gently. I'm offering a donation to a registered charity. You accept donations, correct? Yes, of course. Then it's settled. Marin stood, smoothing her skirt. I'll have my financial advisor transfer the funds by the end of the week. I trust I'll receive an invitation. Vivian practically tripped over herself standing. Yes. Yes, Mrs. Whitley. Absolutely. And thank you. This is just incredible. Marin smiled. It's for the children. That's what matters. As she walked out of the country club, Marin felt something she hadn't felt in months. Power. Not the loud, showy kind. The quiet kind. The kind that didn't need to announce itself. But soon, everyone would know. And Celeste Harrington's perfect world was about to crack wide open. Have you ever been made to feel invisible by someone who thought they were better than you? Have you ever wanted to prove them wrong, not with words, but with something they couldn't ignore? By that evening, Vivian had called Thea Pembroke, who'd called 2 board members, who'd texted 3 others. By midnight, half of Rosewood's elite social circle knew that Marin Whitley, the quiet, unassuming wife of Griffin Whitley, had just pledged $500,000 to the charity ball. Celeste Harrington heard about it over breakfast. She was sitting in her sunroom, sipping espresso and reviewing seating charts for the gala, when her phone buzzed. It was Lorelei Ashford, her closest friend and fellow socialite. Have you heard? Lorelei's voice was breathless with gossip. Heard what? Marin Whitley just donated $500,000 to the ball. Celeste froze, her cup halfway to her lips. What? Vivian just confirmed it. The money's already being transferred. Marin's now the top donor. By a lot. Celeste's jaw tightened. That's impossible. Marin doesn't have that kind of money. Well, apparently she does. And she's requested a public acknowledgement at the event. Celeste set down her cup carefully, her mind racing. I'll call you back. She hung up and immediately dialed Vivian. Celeste, hi, Vivian answered, sounding nervous. What is this I'm hearing about Marin Whitley? Oh, yes. She came by yesterday and made a very generous donation. I was going to call you, but things moved so quickly. You accepted a $500,000 donation without consulting me? Celeste, she's offering money to a charity. I couldn't exactly say no. Celeste's fingers drummed on the table. Where did she get that kind of money? I don't know. But her financial advisor confirmed the funds are legitimate. Celeste felt a cold knot forming in her chest. She'd been so careful. She'd quietly removed Marin from the list, made sure she was sidelined, pushed out of the social circle. Griffin was supposed to be hers to influence, to control. Marin was supposed to fade into the background. But now Marin had done the one thing Celeste couldn't ignore. She'd bought her way back in. No. She'd bought her way to the top. Fine, Celeste said tightly. Make sure she gets an invitation. And Vivian. Yes. Seat her at table 12. Table 12 was in the back, near the kitchen doors. The table for people who didn't matter. Vivian hesitated. Celeste, with a donation that size, protocol usually places her at a head table. Table 12, Celeste repeated, her voice like ice. She hung up. Across town, Griffin was in his office when Julian walked in, grinning. Did you hear? Your wife just became the most talked about woman in Rosewood. Griffin looked up from his blueprints. What are you talking about? Marin. She donated $500,000 to the charity ball. It's all over the club. People are losing their minds. Griffin laughed. That's not funny, Julian. I'm serious. Vivian told my wife this morning. Griffin's smile faded. That's impossible. We don't have that kind of money. Julian shrugged. Well, somebody does. Griffin pulled out his phone and called Marin. She answered on the third ring. Hi, honey. Marin, what's going on? Julian just told me you donated $500,000 to the Rosewood Ball. There was a pause. Then calmly, I did. What do you mean you did? Where did you get that kind of money? From my father. Griffin's mind reeled. Your father? Marin, your father was he was a mechanic or something, right? He was an inventor, Marin corrected gently. He held patents on medical devices. When he died, he left me his estate. Griffin sat down slowly. How much are we talking? Marin hesitated. Enough. Enough? Marin, 500,000 is not just enough. Why didn't you tell me? I wanted to keep it separate. It was my father's wish. We're married. We don't keep secrets like this. Marin's voice was quiet. Don't we? Griffin didn't know what to say to that. I have to go, Marin said. I'll see you tonight. She hung up. Griffin sat there, staring at his phone, his world tilting. His wife, the woman he'd started to see as small, as simple, as someone who didn't quite fit his life anymore, had just revealed herself as someone completely different. And he didn't know whether to feel proud or terrified. The invitation arrived 2 days later. Marin opened the cream envelope and pulled out the card. Her name was printed in elegant script, just like always. But this time, there was a handwritten note at the bottom. Thank you for your extraordinary generosity. We look forward to celebrating your contribution at the gala. It was signed by Vivian, not Celeste. Marin smiled. That evening, she went shopping. For the first time in years, she didn't look at price tags. She walked into the most exclusive boutique in Rosewood and let the stylist choose for her. The dress was midnight blue, silk, simple but stunning. The kind of dress that didn't scream for attention but commanded it anyway. She bought it, along with shoes, a clutch, and diamond earrings her father had given her mother. When she got home, Griffin was waiting. He was sitting at the kitchen table, and he looked lost. We need to talk, he said. Marin set down her bags. Okay. Why didn't you tell me about the money? I just did. Marin, don't do that. Don't act like this is normal. We've been married for 8 years. You've been sitting on a fortune this whole time, and you didn't think I should know. She sat down across from him. Would it have changed anything? What kind of question is that? An honest one. Griffin ran his hands through his hair. I don't even know who you are right now. I'm the same person I've always been, Marin said quietly. You're the one who changed. That's not fair. Isn't it? She looked at him, really looked at him. When's the last time you asked me how I was? When's the last time we had a conversation that wasn't about your work or your clients or your next big deal? Griffin's face flushed. I've been building a career. For us. No, Griffin. For you. The words hung between them. I've spent years trying to be the wife you wanted, Marin continued. Quiet. Supportive. Invisible. But it was never enough, was it? Because I wasn't her. Griffin's eyes flickered. Her who? Celeste. His face went pale. Marin. Don't lie to me. Her voice was steady, but her hands were shaking. I've seen the way you look at her. The way you light up when she's around. The late nights. The phone calls. Nothing's happened. Yet. The word landed like a slap. Griffin stood up. You don't get to accuse me of something I haven't done. But you've thought about it, haven't you? He didn't answer. Marin stood too, her heart breaking and hardening at the same time. I'm going to that ball, Griffin. And I'm going to walk in there with my head high. Not because of the money. Because I finally realized I don't need anyone's permission to matter. She walked past him, up the stairs, and closed the bedroom door. Griffin stood alone in the kitchen, the weight of everything he'd taken for granted crashing down on him. The day before the ball, Celeste called an emergency meeting with Lorelei and 2 other women from the committee. They met at Celeste's estate, in her pristine white living room that looked like it had been staged for a magazine shoot. I need to know everything about Marin Whitley, Celeste said, pacing. How does a librarian's wife suddenly have millions? Lorelei pulled up something on her phone. I did some digging. Her father was Silas Renworth. He invented some kind of medical valve that's used in heart surgeries. Sold the patent for tens of millions back in the 90s. Lived like a hermit. Died 3 years ago. Celeste's stomach turned. So she's been rich this whole time. Looks like it. And she never said anything? Apparently not. Celeste felt a flash of humiliation. She dismissed Marin as insignificant. A nobody. And all this time, Marin had more money than most of the women at that table combined. She made me look like a fool, Celeste hissed. Only if you let her, Lorelei said carefully. Celeste stopped pacing. What do you mean? She donated money. That's great. But it doesn't change who she is. She's still awkward. Still doesn't belong. Money doesn't buy class. The other women nodded. Celeste's mouth curved into a slow smile. You're right. Tomorrow night, everyone will be watching her. And if she stumbles, if she says the wrong thing, wears the wrong dress, sits at the wrong table. She shrugged. The money won't matter. She picked up her phone. Vivian, it's Celeste. I've changed my mind about Marin's seating. Put her at the head table. Right next to me. Lorelei's eyes widened. What are you doing? Celeste's smile was sharp. Keeping my enemies close. Meanwhile, Marin was at home, standing in front of the mirror in her new dress. She looked like someone she didn't recognize. Someone powerful. Thea had come over to help her get ready for tomorrow, and now the older woman stood behind her, adjusting the clasp of her necklace. You look like your mother, Thea said softly. Marin's eyes stung. I wish she could see this. She can. Thea squeezed her shoulders. Tomorrow is going to be hard. They're going to smile at you and stab you at the same time. Are you ready for that? Marin met her own eyes in the mirror. I've been ready my whole life. Thea smiled. Good. Then show them who you are. That night, Marin couldn't sleep. She lay in bed, staring at the ceiling, while Griffin slept in the guest room down the hall. She thought about her father. About the way he used to say, "Be kind, but never be small." She'd been kind for so long. Tomorrow, she'd be something else. Unstoppable. Have you ever had to stand up for yourself in a room full of people who wanted to see you fail? What gave you the strength to do it? The Rosewood Charity Ball was held at the Grand Marigold Hotel, a sprawling estate with marble floors, crystal chandeliers, and walls covered in gold leaf. Marin arrived alone. Griffin had offered to come with her, but she declined. This wasn't about him. She stepped out of the car, and immediately, heads turned. The dress fit her perfectly. Her hair was swept up in a simple, elegant twist. The diamond earrings caught the light. She looked like money. Old money. The kind you didn't talk about. A photographer snapped her picture. She smiled and walked inside. The ballroom was filled with Rosewood's elite. Women in gowns that cost more than cars. Men in custom tuxedos. Champagne flowed. A string quartet played softly in the corner. Marin took a glass of champagne from a passing waiter and scanned the room. And then she saw her. Celeste Harrington, standing near the center of the room in a red gown, holding court like a queen. She was surrounded by admirers, laughing, glittering, magnetic. Their eyes met across the room. Celeste's smile didn't falter, but something cold flickered in her gaze. She excused herself from her group and walked directly toward Marin. "Marin," she said warmly, air-kissing both her cheeks. "What a surprise. And what a generous donation. We're all so grateful." "It's for a good cause," Marin said simply. Celeste's eyes swept over her dress, her jewelry, her posture. "You look different." "Thank you. I've seated you at the head table. I thought it was only appropriate, given your contribution." "That's kind of you." Celeste leaned in slightly, her voice dropping. "You know, Marin, money is wonderful, but it doesn't change where you come from." Marin smiled. "You're right. It doesn't." Celeste blinked, surprised. "But it does change where I'm going," Marin added. Before Celeste could respond, Vivian appeared with a microphone. "Ladies and gentlemen, if you could please take your seats, we're about to begin." The crowd moved toward the tables. Marin found her seat at the head table, right between Celeste and Thea, who gave her a subtle wink. Griffin was seated 2 tables away. He caught her eye, but she looked away. The evening began with speeches. The foundation director thanked the donors. A young patient shared her story. There was applause, tears, laughter. And then Vivian stepped up to the microphone. "And now, I'd like to recognize our most generous donor this year. Her contribution of $500,000 will fund an entire wing of the Children's Hospital. Please join me in thanking Mrs. Marin Whitley." The room erupted in applause. Marin stood, her heart pounding. Every eye in the room was on her. She walked to the stage, her legs steady, her head high. Vivian handed her the microphone. Marin looked out at the crowd. At Celeste, whose smile was frozen. At Griffin, who looked stunned. At the people who'd ignored her, dismissed her, erased her. "Thank you," she said, her voice clear. "This donation is in honor of my father, Silas Renworth. He taught me that wealth isn't about what you show. It's about what you give. And tonight, I'm giving in his name, and in the name of every child who deserves a chance." The applause was deafening. Marin handed back the microphone and returned to her seat. Celeste leaned over, her smile tight. "Well done." Marin met her eyes. "Thank you. I learned from the best." Celeste's smile cracked, just a little. After the speeches, the dancing began. Marin excused herself and stepped out onto the terrace for air. The night was cool, the sky full of stars. She leaned against the railing, letting herself breathe. "You were amazing in there," She turned. Griffin stood in the doorway, hands in his pockets. "What are you doing out here?" she asked. "I wanted to talk to you." "Now." He walked closer. "I've been an idiot, Marin." She said nothing. "I got caught up in everything. The career, the status, the idea of who I thought I needed to be." He shook his head. "I stopped seeing you. And I'm so sorry." Marin's throat tightened. "Do you love her?" Griffin looked stricken. "No. I swear to you, nothing happened. But I was flattered by the attention. And I let it cloud my judgment. You made me feel small." "I know." His voice broke. "And I hate myself for it." Marin looked at him, this man she'd loved for so long. "I don't know if I can forgive you yet." "I'm not asking you to. I just want a chance to prove I can be better." Before she could respond, the terrace doors opened. Celeste stepped out, her eyes sharp. "Oh, I'm interrupting." "Not at all," Marin said coolly. "We were just finishing." Celeste's gaze flicked between them. "Griffin, your partner Julian is looking for you inside." Griffin hesitated, then nodded. "I'll find him." He looked at Marin. "We'll talk later?" She didn't answer. He left. Celeste stepped closer, her smile venomous. "You think you've won, don't you?" "This isn't a competition," Marin said. "Everything is a competition." Celeste's voice was low, dangerous. "You walked in here tonight with your money and your little performance, and you think that makes you one of us. But it doesn't. You'll always be the girl who didn't belong." Marin turned to face her fully. "You're right. I don't belong with people like you. People who measure worth by cruelty. Who tear others down to feel powerful." She stepped closer. "But here's the difference between us, Celeste. I don't need to be liked. I just need to know I did the right thing." Celeste's face flushed with anger. "You banned me from this event because you saw me as a threat," Marin continued. "Not because I didn't belong. But because you knew deep down that I did. And that terrified you." Celeste's mouth opened, but no words came out. Marin walked past her, back into the ballroom, leaving Celeste alone in the dark. 3 weeks later, Marin stood in the newly opened wing of the Rosewood Children's Hospital. The walls were painted soft yellow. There were murals of forests and stars. The rooms were filled with light. A plaque on the wall read, "The Silas Renworth Wing. Donated by Marin Whitley." Thea stood beside her. "Your father would be so proud." Marin smiled, tears in her eyes. "I hope so." They walked through the halls, watching children play, families smile, nurses work with state-of-the-art equipment. This was what the money was for. Not status. Not revenge. This. Later that evening, Marin returned home. The house was quiet. Griffin had moved back in, but they were taking things slowly. Therapy. Honest conversations. No guarantees. He was in the kitchen when she walked in. "How did it go?" he asked. "It was perfect." He smiled. "I'm glad." They stood there, in the soft light of their home, two people trying to find their way back to each other. "I don't know if we'll make it," Marin said quietly. "I know. But I'm willing to try. If you are." Griffin nodded. "I am." Marin took his hand. It felt familiar. And fragile. But it was a start. As for Celeste, her world had shifted too. Word had spread about how she'd tried to ban Marin, only to be overshadowed by her generosity. Her reputation took a hit. Whispers at parties. Fewer invitations. The slow, quiet fall from grace that happens when people realize you're not untouchable. She'd learn eventually that kindness carries more weight than cruelty. Or maybe she wouldn't. Either way, it was no longer Marin's concern. Marin had learned something too. That silence isn't weakness. That humility isn't the same as invisibility. And that sometimes, the greatest power comes not from fighting for a place at the table, but from building your own. She thought about her father's letter often. Use it when it matters. She had. And in doing so, she'd found herself. Not the woman people wanted her to be, but the woman she'd always been. Strong, generous, unshakable, and finally free. What would you do if you had the chance to prove your worth to people who doubted you? Would you seek their approval, or would you walk away and build something better?